Namaste, and the virtual stage is all yours.
Thank you so much for that amazing red carpet introduction. This is and the wonderful kind words you've spoken, Rahul. This is like, I think this is the best intro I've ever received in any event. I hope all my viewers are fine. These have been tough times last few months. Hope all of you have been safe and good. It's a pleasure being here in front of you. It's always a pleasure speaking to entrepreneurs and having a conversation. So the keyword in that sentence is conversation. So feel free to keep posting any questions, queries you have in the chat. Along with my presentation, I'll keep my chat open so that I can answer your queries. This session is supposed to help you guys out to make sure you guys build your company well, to help you guys fundraise better and build a business that you want. Right. So please, I would love it if you could participate in the conversation and ask as many questions as you could. It'd be my pleasure to answer them. Without further ado, let me bring up my screen and show you guys what I will be presenting today. I presume all of you can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So let me just, okay, chat. Just figuring out how to keep chat. All right, done. Cool. So today I'm going to be talking on the art of pitching. I'm doing a very focused session on just how to pitch to investors. There's a lot more I can talk about on venture itself, on what makes a business venture fundable, and there's a lot more. If you guys want that, drop in the comments. I'll maybe post this. I can run another presentation quickly if we have the time. But today I want to focus only on the art of pitching. How do you pitch your startup? How do you tell the story in such a way that the investor wants to put in money? And the keyword in that is telling the story. And we'll get to why that is the keyword. So before that, some housekeeping. You can reach out to us at pitch@100x.vc to send us your pitch decks if you want to work with us. And if you like the session, feel free to post on Twitter, tag us at 100x.vc. My Twitter handle is at wazzupk, VAZZUPK. If you have something bad to say, please drop me an email. I'll surely work on the feedback and get better for the next session. So let me go ahead and tell you that every pitch is about generating curiosity in an investor. Your goal is to keep them wanting more. It's not about, okay, this meeting is where I get my check. It's about this meeting makes them feel, oh my God, I'm listening to something that I want to listen more of. I want to hear from this founder more. I want to hear more about his business. I want to learn more about his market or their market. I'm really sorry for the gender, but their market. I want to learn more about their product. I want to learn more about how they're selling it. What is the price? What do their customers think? I want to learn more about them. That curiosity, that drive in the investors, right? That they want to learn more about you and your business. That is what you're trying to generate, right? That is what leads to them understanding the business. It's the difference between you telling somebody, okay, if you have healthy food, you will live long, and them coming directly to you and asking, why does healthy food make me live long? Okay, what is healthy food? Is avocado healthy? Is this healthy? Is that healthy? What combination of healthy foods makes me live longer? What do you mean by live longer? How much longer, right? If they're coming directly, right, and if you're able to generate that interest where they keep asking questions, then that means they're selling themselves on it, right? And that's what you want to do. Get the investors to sell themselves on the opportunity. So that's where it's about generating curiosity and get them asking questions and keep on wanting more to know more about the business. Remember, one meeting does not mean they're going to write you a check. That does happen, but very occasionally, like 1 out of 100 maybe. right? The goal of every meeting is to get to a next meeting, right? Your goal is not कि एक ही meeting में, just in one meeting, I will tell them everything and anything about my business. And then they will just say, oh, wow, Vatsal, you're doing the best job ever. Let me write you $1 million check. That's not how it works, right? An investor's job is to say no to 1,000 opportunities so that they can say yes to one which sounds really good, right? So they are trying to actively filter you out. So your goal is not कि एक ही मीटिंग में चेक ले लूं. Your goal is to stop getting filtered out, to survive, to go long enough to generate that curiosity where every meeting they sell themselves a little bit more, a little bit more, and a little bit more on the business. And then they want to work with you and invest in you guys, right? So, I'm going to split this in kind of 4 parts. One will be the elevator pitch. The second will be the email pitch. How the third will be your storyline. What is the story you sell and say? And the fourth is the deck itself, right? And we'll get to each part, but I've structured them in this way because this is typically how you reach out to investors, right? You do an elevator pitch either by meeting them in person, or you met me today and you drop in the chat, hey, this is what I'm doing. And then I suddenly get interested and say, okay, I want to learn more, drop me an email. Then the next step is the email pitch where you drop me an email with the deck, etc. And so that step leads to me wanting to say, okay, I want to learn more about the business. Let's get on a call. Why don't you pitch to me? That is where the deck and the storyline come together. But your storyline makes the biggest difference there, and we'll come to why. And so, yeah, that's how I structured the conversation. Let me get into the elevator pitch itself. Look at this template, right? We are building a, sorry, hold on. I'm just trying to, oh, perfect. Yeah, we are building a product for ideal customer profile who are having this pain point and are making this business impact on that. Let me just stop sharing my screen for a second. I'm just gonna, let me, एक second. Sorry, I'm missing a couple slides in this, which I need to move in. Apologies. Okay, I'm almost there. Bear with me for a sec. Yeah. All right, perfect. Let me share my screen again. Presuming you can see my screen now, let me present. Yeah. So,
yes,
so we are building a product for this ideal customer profile who are facing this pinpoint and are making this business impact on them, right? This is the broad template you can use for your business as a way to build and refine your elevator pitch. Now, remember, this is a living, breathing organization. This is a living, breathing organism, right? Your pitch itself, right? So it keeps changing as your business keeps changing, as you understand how investors perceive your business and how customers perceive your business, right? Because let's say you believe that your business impact is, one thing, but the customer believes that the business impact is something else. Then that's the story you want to tell, right? That this is the customer's focus on the business impact, not the one which you believe you're giving, right? So this keeps changing over time, and you should keep practicing and refining this elevator pitch over and over again in this kind of template. Let me give a couple examples. So this, what do you think this is the elevator pitch of? this is SpaceX, right? They say we are building a reusable rocket for governments and corporations. That's their ideal customer profile. Launching satellites, again, ideal customer profile, people, governments and corporations that want to launch satellites, who are reliant on costly government services and are 33% cheaper than our nearest competitor. So you see how they've defined what they're doing shortly, building reusable rockets. B, they've defined their customer profiles shortly, governments and corporations launching satellites. C, they've described the pain point, which is they are reliant on costly government services. And D, they've defined how they are better and what is the business impact, right? Which is 33% cheaper than our nearest competitor, right? So this tells me a very good understanding of what the business does, right? I know what they're doing. I know who they're selling to. I know why those people are buying this product. And I know what is the difference or the impact or the reason these guys are better than their competitors or they're being bought over others, right? I want to highlight one thing here. See how they've written 33% cheaper. They could have easily were a lot cheaper. Just say a lot cheaper, but they've given a specific number. The more objective you make your pitch, right? Putting numbers instead of adjectives, right? We are better, faster, we're 33% faster. We're 10 times better. We're 4 times cheaper, right? The better you can do. And even if instead of a multiple or a percentage, you can give absolute values. While our competitors are selling at $10,000, we're giving a launch at $1,000, even better, right? Because that gives the magnitude of the difference that you're making, right? So being specific with numbers is a good thing with investors. If you're being vague about numbers and using adjectives, it doesn't really help make an impact on us. You want to make an impact, right? Okay, let's say you're describing the market. You can say a lot of people are getting cancer, or you can say 1 out of 9 Indians is going to get cancer. Now we are like, wow, right? Oh, 1 out of 9, I know 9 people, 1 of us is going to get cancer. Oh my God, right? That's impactful. So numbers make a big impact, and give specific numbers where you can. Let's take another example for a elevator pitch. This is SpaceX, right? Sorry, this is Tesla. So we are building premium electric cars. See how they define premium as well, right? So premium said they're defining that we are not supposed to be cheap, right? Hamara market is supposed to be premium, a bit costly, a bit hi-fi, right? We are building premium electric cars for the environmentally conscious millennials with 100K plus annual salary. So see how specific they are about the user persona. They could have just said we're building premium electric cars for people who like cars. That's so vague, but there are so many people who like cars. Or for millennials, but there are so many millennials. Now these guys are showing that we have a specific understanding of our customer base, which is environmentally conscious millennials, and these guys are earning at least $100,000 in annual salary, right? So I'm giving a very clear picture of who the ideal customer persona is, right? And the clearer the better. Who are reliant on gasoline-based cars, and we emit 50% less CO2 and are 2 times safer than gas cars, right? So again, the pain point is these guys have to rely on gasoline-based cars, but we're obviously non-gasoline, and we emit 50% less CO2 and are 2 times safer than gas cars, right? So again, see how specific numbers have been given. They're very specific on the customer persona. They're choosing specific words carefully, right? Obviously, just a disclaimer, these are not actual elevator pitches used by Elon. These are ones I've created for them. But see how I've used like specific words, right? Like the choice of premium. I could have just said we are building electric cars, but I specifically added premium because they started off as, they're focused on costly cars. They're focused on more of the premium segment, right? That's their focus. They're not yet down into, mass market as of yet, right? So anyway, I hope this gives you kind of an understanding of how to kind of build your elevator pitch. Other things you can add in an elevator pitch would be how you make money. We make money by a simple software subscription model. What your traction is, we've already sold 10,000 cars and are making this much revenue. Team details and briefly why you're the right team. And with the perfect team to build this, I'm a computer scientist who's written 10 research papers on this specific topic. And I'm assisted with my coworkers who I've known for 3 years, right? So these things, if you add to the mix, that can enhance the experience better. You have to remember, in the end, this is an elevator pitch. So try to cut it down to, less than 280 characters. Everything you can fit in a tweet or say in less than like for 30 to 45 seconds is good. So once you've done this elevator pitch, right? You've met me today, you've given me your elevator pitch. And if you guys want to try it out, right? Let me actually, during this session itself, why don't you guys try using this template and just putting it in the chat. I'll review it for you if you want. Let me go ahead. The email pitch. So now let's say you've elevator pitched to me. I'm interested. I say, all right, hey Prasiddhi, your work looks good. Let me learn more. Why don't you drop me an email with the rest of the details, your pitch deck, etc. Right now, you've got to write a good email to grab my attention, right? Or if you've skipped the elevator pitch, etc., and directly going for a cold email, even then this comes in handy. Let me show you how. Right? You need to write an email with your deck. You need to attach your deck. It should be in a PDF form. Please do not attach a PPT or anything. The easiest is a PDF. The next best is a Canva link or a DocSend link or a pitch.com link or whatever. The best option will always be attaching a PDF, right? PPT never, Word doc never. Notion doc depends on each investor. So write an email with a deck, your elevator pitch, a demo to your product, one line on your traction and growth, one line on your team, and a call to action, right? Let me showcase how you can write this. This is a template you guys can use. So you say, hi, I'm Vatsal XYZ at ABC. So I can say, I'm Vatsal, I'm the CEO at SpaceX. Then I use my elevator pitch. Here's a quick demo of our product. I attach a link to the video. We're at product stage with traction and growth. So we're at MVP stage with 3 pilots ongoing across, startups. With the best team to build it. I'm the CEO. I'm an investor. My colleague has worked at Microsoft as a techie for 2 years. And we've known each other for 3 years together, right? Would love to get on a call with you and share any details you need. This is the call to action that I've made, right? Let me give you a couple examples of how to write an email pitch. So this is SpaceX. Obviously, Elon is pitching to Jeff here. So he says, hi, Jeff. I'm Elon, CEO at SpaceX. Again, we are building reusable rockets for governments and corporations launching satellites who are reliant on costly government services and are 33% cheaper than a nearest competitor. See how he's bolded those particular points that he wants to highlight, right? Here's a quick video of our rocket ship test. He's added a link to the video. We're already live with 26 annual launches happening with a $2 billion run rate growing 20% year on year. See how this described his stage and his traction. With the best team to build it, Elon is CEO and CTO. He previously built, scaled, and sold Zip2 and PayPal. Gwynne Shotwell is president and CEO and responsible for day-to-day ops and company growth. And we're currently raising a $10 billion pre-IPO round and would love to get on call with you, share any details you need. You see how he's given a clear call to action, how succinctly he's talked about the team in one lines, how quickly he's talked about the stage of the company, the traction they're doing, that elevator pitch. This is a quick email pitch which tells me most of the things I need to know about the business. And beyond this, if I need to know anything more, there is the deck, right? So this is kind of how you can write a pitch. Let me take another example. For Tesla, for example, it goes, hi, I'm Vatsal XYZ at ABC. We are building premium electric cars for the environmentally conscious millennials, blah, blah, blah. Here's a quick demo of our latest car. We're a public company with $31 billion of revenue, with the best team to build it, same format, right? Um, now remember, just something to keep in mind. Always have a gratitude mindset. Does not mean sycophancy, right? You're not servants to investors or anything. Ke, sir, how are you, sir? Kaise ho? No. First name basis in this industry is very good. Go Vatsal, treat us as equals, treat us with respect, and we'll treat you back with respect as well. But have a little bit of a gratitude mindset. In general, not just with investors, but around the world with anybody. When an investor gives you a feedback, right, you might feel the need to say, okay, what do you know about my business? You don't know anything, go to hell. Rather, you can just say, thank you for your feedback. We'll act on it and look into it, even if you're not going to act on it, right? If somebody makes an introduction to a potential client, whatever, just be grateful. The reason it is your relationship with the investor is more important than the outcome of the current meeting. Let me tell you why. As an example, in December 19, even before that, in October 19, I met a founder called Shivam Malhotra. He's the founder of Pracify. We had a couple calls. He was still at idea stage, building his product. We exchanged notes, but I said, all right, this is too early for me, not going to invest. Every few months, he was grateful. He took my feedback. Every 2 months, he would reconnect with me, tell me this is the update. He would take my feedback. Whether he acted upon it or not is a separate thing, but he acted grateful. So I built a very strong relationship with Shivam. I knew him better. I knew who he was, right? And then when his product was live and ready in August of 2020, we ended up investing. We were the first check into their startup, right? Over a year, we built that relationship together. So this gratitude mindset, right, will help you get access through a small favors you'll get from us, from investors. You, even if we don't invest, you may get some customer introductions, you may get some investor introductions. You may get actual feedback on product, which you can use valuable. You might get feedback on your pitch, right? And over time, maybe that relationship actually blooms into something transactional where we're able to invest, right? But you have to always think on a long-term relationship building mindset, and that needs you to have a gratitude attitude, right? And that's not just with investors, that's with your clients, that's with your employees, everywhere, right? Be grateful and try to kind of leverage and build relationships which you can use over time. Now, coming to part 2, the story. Let's say you've written this is part 3 actually. You've written the email. Now I've called you on to pitch to us, right? And I've said, hey, Prasiddhi, why don't you pitch to us? Let's get on a 30-minute Zoom call, right? So how do you do it? Well, don't go deck first. Founders love building a deck without a story in mind, right? Oh, ye to obvious hai, problem slide. This is how I'm going to build it. These are the problems. I'll just write everything down. And then they bring the deck in front of them and they read and they say the story that is in front of them on the deck, right? They let the deck guide what they want to say. I always believe the opposite, which is that the investor should be focusing on what you're saying and the deck should be assisting you. Your story is the highlight of the pitch. What you're saying is the highlight. You are the highlight. The deck should only be an assisting tool when an investor loses attention or just briefly misses out on something you heard. It re-highlights and refocuses the investor on what you said. So try to approach your pitch from a story first perspective, right? Where you refine your story in your head, figure out what to say, and make it interesting and attractive in a way where the investor is focused on what you're saying. You have their attention full, and then the deck assists. Take a look at, for example, my current pitch itself, right? I'm saying all these things, highlighting so many points, saying so many points, but I'm only highlighting key parts of what I need to say, right? I'm barely ever reading off the deck, which I'm doing with the examples, but you can understand what I'm trying to say, right? So that makes the pitch a lot more attractive. So how to build a storyline? Start with the why. the problem itself, right? Who is it for, which defines who your ideal customer is. What is the cost? Quantify it in time, money, lives, right? So for example, let me take, what's an example business I can take? Maybe Prasiddhi's business. I don't completely know what her business was, but you know, let me start with it, right? So climate change is a big problem. Who is that a problem for? Everybody, but the solution we're talking about from a climate change perspective, maybe it's targeted towards, you know, specifically Indians living in Mumbai who are living in flats or in large buildings or something, right? So maybe that's what it is, right? So I say, all right, currently people in Mumbai who are living in flats in tall buildings are facing a huge problem that their trash is not being collected on time. It's not separated, and you know, it's not disposed of correctly. Why is this a problem? Then you try to quantify it in time, money, lives, right? Which is because of this, you know, pollution increases. So we're losing on average 10% more lives than we should be in India, right? Or in Mumbai. 10% more people are dying on a daily basis. Maybe this leads to inefficiencies in the supply chain process, which leads to a loss of 100 crore rupees annually, right? Or maybe it just says because it's not disposed of correctly at the source, segregated at the source, you know, it leads to 100 crores of extra investment in labor and, you know, 60,000 man hours, you know, to segregate them at the dump itself, right? So that's how you kind of try to define and quantify the problem in terms of time, money, or lives, something that an investor connects with, right? You're trying to say that it's not just I'm doing this for the well-being of somebody. You're saying, okay, the person who's facing this problem, the customer or whoever, right? They're actually having a really tough time and there's a lot of impact on it. And you're making that impact tangible, right? By quantifying it. Then you talk about the opportunity. And this is a huge opportunity. There are 100 million people living in Mumbai in these flats on like in tall buildings, right? And on the back of this, you know, if, you know, on average for there's about 2 tons of garbage every year. So that's 200 million tons of garbage, which is not being segregated. If we're able to segregate this effectively, then we'll save $50 per ton, which leads to about 200 million into $50, which is like $10 million of savings, right? So this way you can kind of quantify the opportunity, not just by giving, you know, like numbers. Okay, itne log hai, these are the number of people, or this is the total spend happening in the market, but also trying to do some back of the paper kind of math and telling you, okay, this is the broad opportunity we see in terms of revenue or savings. Then you describe the solution itself. What does the product do? What is the user journey through the product, right? Not just, okay, oh, we're just solving this segregation, but guide them through the process, right? Okay, it's so easy now. Earlier, to segregate, you used to have to do it manually, you know, take 2 separate trash bags and separate individually. But now you just have a robot at your home, which we're selling, which is a product which will segregate the trash for you at your home, right? And it's very simple. All you have to do is feed all trash into the robot and it will segregate on its own. So now you've described and given a comparison of how the user journey was before and now how it is now. Then give the business impact, right? Okay, because of this now, you know, it's 50% faster, 20% of money is being saved, lives are being saved by, you know, 10 times more lives are being saved, whatever, right? So you give an understanding of, so it ties into kind of the problem here where you're quantifying the problem in some metric. And then here you're saying, okay, because of my solution, this problem has been mitigated by so much, right? This is the impact we've had. Then you talk about the business model, you know, how do you make money? How do you price? How did you come to this pricing, right? okay, we came to like a very simple model, which is a $29 per month subscription model with an annual AMC of $100, right? Maybe that's the business model. Help people understand, help investors understand how do you make money, because of a business is nothing if it's not going to make money, even if it's an impact business, right? Investors are not going to invest in the expectation of losing money. They want you to be able to run sustainably and keep growing slowly, while also making impact at scale, right? So there has to be a way of making money, and that business model is critical in understanding that. Talk about your unit economics. Why are your unit economics better than the rest? Your CAC, your COGS, your margin. Talk about competition. Who are the key players in this market? How do you differentiate in positioning customers? How do you differentiate in tech features, pricing? The broad idea is to tell them, okay, this is why we are better than our competitors. These are the players that we see. There are 10 other players, but you see that our features are more, our revenue model is better, our margins are better, our unit economics are better, our positioning is different, and so on, right? And then your traction may, there's something called a primary metric, which is also your North Star as to what tells you the health of your business. For most businesses, this will be revenue, right? Revenue is like the most primary metric. It tells you about the health of your business. Yeah, I'm making money, people are paying me, so that means my business is healthy. And it's growing. Some businesses might have active users. Secondary metrics are more along the lines of net promoter score, gross merchandise value, customer retention, that kind of stuff. Right, let me move on. Talk about growth, right? Don't just say, okay, the story is incomplete if you just say, okay, we have revenue, but also talk about, okay, my revenue is growing month on month by this much, week on week by this much, day on day by this much, right? Investors love growth more than anybody, anything, right? So actually that's kind of nuanced, but let me put it this way, right? The price given for fast growing companies with good retention, good business models is much higher than price for companies with low growth. Building a growth loop into your business is tough, right? Building a sales and marketing channel or a product-led growth loop is tough, right? So talking about, okay, we're already able to achieve this much growth is important. And also talk about how with this fundraise, you want to increase your growth. This is the goal you want to reach. How fast can you reach there, right? Talk about that you have a plan in mind to grow faster and better and reach a particular point, right? Talk about the team. Again, talk about the team in terms of who are the key members, equity holders, what are the key responsibilities, right? Most people love to just say, okay, I'm a IIT grad and these are my 3 friends, but talk about your responsibilities. I'm the CEO. Don't just give roles, right? I'm the CEO, yes, but I also look after primarily sales, marketing, and product. This is my CTO. He looks after the tech development and handling the tech team. And this is my COO or CHRO. She looks at all the hiring practices, etc. Right? So give their key responsibility and then obviously background. Give a one-liner to kind of summarize everything. This can also be your elevator pitch, or you can just use, we are the Uber for this, or we are the Airbnb for this. And then finally a call to action, right? Never end a pitch without a call to action, right? Whether it's happy to answer any questions, would love to learn more about, exchange notes or give you more data if you want, or would love to work with you closely, right? So give some call to action so that the investor has direction ke kya karna hai ab iske baad, ye pitch ke baad. So once you build this whole storyline, right, you have this story in place, you've written a Word doc, and this is typically how I recommend, right? Write a Word doc, words down, put the words down into a Word doc, select specific words that you want to say, like premium ka example, right? You have to be very careful about the words you choose. Now the storyline is in place, then you build the deck around this, right? This will be quick. So deck is basically, hold on, sorry. Wait, let me, this is actually, wait, this is, sorry, there you go. So this is what the deck slide should look like. your key focus is to highlight the key part, right? So let's say this is the sentence I'm saying, right? Our proprietary tech integrates with your ERP and optimizes your internal processes to reduce handling costs by 50%. As an example, a client of ours saw their costs reduced from 1.5 crores to 75 lakhs or 0.75 crores. This is the sentence that I'm saying. But what I will have on the slide is just this, which is 50% reduction in handling costs. You're seeing what I'm doing? You have a storyline, you've got multiple sentences like this coming along. What you want to do is you want to highlight the key parts of what you're saying, right? Another example would be this, right? Where I'm saying all of this, but I'm highlighting only the key part, which is always have a gratitude mindset, right? And then I'm expanding upon it. Similarly, I'm expanding upon and saying this whole sentence, long sentence, but I'm highlighting only 50% reduction in handling costs, right? So this is how your deck should look basically, right? It is you highlight the key parts of your storyline. It should be an assist to your storyline. Post that, let's say you start having follow-on calls. What is the process look like, right? Let the VC dictate the follow-on calls. Your goal is to get to the next call. If the VC is interested in working with you guys, they will get you on a next call. But after the first call, which is usually a generic pitch, like I showed you, post that, they will dictate how this goes, right? They will tell you, all right, I want to hear more about your go-to-market. So they will say, okay, next call, let's say a week down, why don't you build a presentation on your go-to-market strategy and talk to us more on this? I want to hear more about how you're increasing retention. I want to hear more about how you can tweak this into a subscription business model. They will give you actionable points. If they're not, then either the VC is not interested or they don't have an understanding of the business yet, right? But typically they will give you. I think that's kind of the end of my presentation on the pitching part itself. Before I move into talking about 100x, are there any questions I can answer for any of you?
Dear participants, if there are some questions, you can post that in chat box, please. Yeah, sir, I have got a few questions before we go on. I'll just post it. Sir, when is the right time for startups to raise funds? That was one question that I popped
up. The right time is now, and the best time is whenever you don't need money. See, the way to think about it is there is no point where an VC won't invest, right? In the current world, VCs are investing as small as 200,000, 300,000 checks in startups, right? Idea stage startups are also getting funded. So it's not like idea stage startups won't get funded anymore. Or you need at least this much revenue before you get funded. There are VCs across all stages of a startup's life, and across the board there is an opportunity to fundraise from some of the other investors. You obviously have to study a VC's investment thesis and understand that they are open to investing at your stage before reaching out to them. But there is no right time to raise funds, right? If you believe you got a hypothesis, a very clear hypothesis on what you want to raise for, and you have an idea of okay, itna paisa aega, so that will accelerate the building of my business, then you should go for it. Best case scenario, you do get an offer, you can take it up. Worst case scenario, you don't get, you can use that, keep an attitude of gratitude, use those relations you've built and keep leveraging them while you're building. Keep in touch and try to build on that. So there is no right time. It's now. Just go and start. There's nothing wrong with starting to pitch right now, right? Only thing is you have to be careful about is you don't want to become a stale deal. What do I mean by a stale deal, right? Let's say you start pitching today, right? And you reach out to 1,000 all investors across India, 1,000 investors, and all of them say no. But in the process of reaching out to these 1,000 investors, you've not grown in terms of your product, you've not grown in terms of your revenue, interaction. There's no velocity, there's no direction. You're not growing. Then your numbers are stale. Then your story is stale. Everybody knows what you're doing. Everybody knows where you stand, and everybody knows you're not growing. So nobody's going to invest. Then the only way to get out of that hellhole will be to show some excellent growth, excellent traction, and then raise, right? So you want to be careful as to balancing who you reach out to, not trying to reach out to too many people, and also making sure you keep growing parallel to your fundraising process, right? You don't want to, start focus so much on fundraising that your company doesn't grow. And so your business doesn't keep changing. And so the investor doesn't have any questions the next time you follow up on them, right? Hey, would you be interested now? If they don't have any questions and they don't have anything new to hear, then you're a stale deal. Nobody's going to invest, right? So you have to be careful a little bit. Those dynamics are a bit tough to handle, but you will figure it out as you stay in the startup ecosystem. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I have one more question in the chat box by Hubert Roshan. What you don't want to see in a pitch during a pitch presentation?
Sure. This is a tough question to answer. I can tell you what I do want to see. I can't tell you what I don't want to see, right? But some things that might throw me off is founders who are trying to get the investor to validate the idea and then put their all in. There are founders who will be like, what do you think about the business? Will you invest? They're waiting for an investor's check before they go all in because they don't have conviction. So they are saying, okay, if the investor puts in money, then I have full conviction. I will leave my job and go in, right? Founders should have conviction before investors should, right? We are not going to validate your idea. You should be out there validating your idea with customers in the market, right? Maybe that's one thing I don't like. This is intangible. It's not something you hear in the pitch itself, but yeah. Too many jargon, too many adjectives. We are the best. Many a times founders love talking about the problem way too much, right? They'll spend about 10 slides on the problem and then 3 slides on the solution. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Context setting should not take that much time. If it's taking that much time, either you are misunderstanding the VC's understanding of the space, or you're not understanding it yourself well enough to be able to tell it succinctly. I think that's a couple things maybe I can point out. I'm sorry, Hubert, but I don't, nothing else comes to my mind right now beyond that.
Okay, so there's another question from the chat. What are the 4 major essential every startup founders have to mind when running a startup?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
What are the 4 major essential qualities? Say, let's keep it as qualities. Every startup founders have to mind when running a startup.
Which
means the 4 major qualities that every startup founder has to keep in mind when he is preparing to raise funds.
Sure. So from a founder perspective, no founder is perfect. No founding team is perfect. Nobody knows everything. Even we don't know. I mean, we absolutely don't know shit about shit. Okay. We are VCs. We're journalists. We know only a little bit about a lot of things, but not everything. Experts are the founders, right? And even then, I'm sure you guys don't know most of the things, and that's fine. Founders don't come perfect. Founders are not born. Founders are built. They learn and build themselves. I think what is key is having a balanced team with at least the most critical skills in place. So if you're a tech startup, at least have one founder who knows enough of tech to be able to build the MVP, to be able to build a product which validates, and a founder who can do the rest of the, sales, marketing at the basics level. Beyond that, what is most important to me is a growth mindset, right? A founder who keeps pushing themselves to learn, to grow, to improve themselves. Okay, now I need to scale the business. Alongside that, I need to scale myself. I need to scale my managing abilities. I need to scale my organizational design abilities. I need to scale my tech abilities. I need to scale my sales abilities, whatever it is. A founder who is ready to put in the time and has the mindset, I want to scale myself along with the business, right, is the one that you want to back. So that is something you need to keep in mind, right? You're never going to be perfect, and you should be aware of it, but you should also be telling yourself, I will grow, I will improve, I will learn, and you should keep pushing yourself to learn. Keep reading books, keep reading stuff which is relevant to your business, and keep growing. I hope that helps out whoever was
Yes, sir.
asking
Yes,
that
sir.
question.
So there are three more questions. Are we going to answer this now or after the presentation?
Happy to answer questions right now.
Yeah, yes, sir. There's a question by Prem. I think they have already answered. Can a founder approach a VC directly?
Yes, that's why I've put my email ID here, right? Our email ID, cold emails. We take a look at cold emails a lot. The larger the firms get, the tougher it may be to reach out. But there are many, many ways you can reach out to an associate, an analyst. You don't need to reach out to partners directly, right? You can reach out through a cold email. You can do a LinkedIn DM, a Twitter DM. You can get a referral from a portfolio founder. You can referral from their family member or friend. There's so many ways to reach out to a founder, to a VC. It's not most VCs will also have their email out in public. My email is written on my LinkedIn. If you can't find out my email, then I would be doubtful on the founder. Okay, this founder is not taking enough effort to build their business. I mean, that's the bare minimum you can do, right? My email is literally on my LinkedIn, and founders tell me, oh, I don't know what your email is. Like, you can find it on the internet. It's everywhere. It's literally here. Right? So yeah, it should be very easy, and you can reach out bindas.
Yeah. I have to add that, sir. 100x VC's pitch is a team one which responds very quickly. I know incomparable with any VC firms. See, I'm saying it from my experience. There was a moment, couple of months back, I was posting something in LinkedIn and I was tagging 100x VC. Immediately, I've got a DM in my LinkedIn from Sanjay Mehta, sir, that pitch your startup idea to pitch 100x VC. And then I just replied him, sir, my startup is not an investable startup. I just want to invite someone from 100x VC for my startup grant program. Again, immediately I've got the message, mail to pitch at 100x VC. That's how I mailed to pitch at 100x VC. And immediately I've got a response from Vatsal, sir. And we fixed up a call, and then this program is happening today. See, this is one, 100x VC is a kind of investment firm that is coming to you. Come, I'm here to support you. Hey, we are here to help you. Now, if you are really solving a problem, we are ready to help you. That's a kind of mindset, that's a kind of quality that 100x VC is coming to you. If you look at the portfolio of 100x VC, all those startups were exceptional startups. I definitely look at 100x VC portfolio. It is Google, just you can Google it. You'll find a lot of startups, and then go visit the websites of those startups. You will understand what the quality of startups which 100x VC is investing in. That's a part of self-learning. And then, sir, I have a quick question from Aishwarya. Sir, will 100x VC...
Rahul,
yeah.
I'm really sorry, but maybe I'll take that. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your kind words. Maybe I'll take that to quickly run the founders to the rest of it, where I'm talking about 100x and our thesis.
Yes,
so broadly, I think at the beginning, like I told you guys, we look at A, founding team, B, the market size opportunity, C, business model strength, fourth, an unfair advantage, a moat, and fifth, a conviction of minimum 20x return, right? So founding team, we're looking at who are the founders, do they have the core skills required to build this product and sell it? Do they have that growth mindset? Market size, we're looking at a large, fast growing market with few incumbents, or if there are incumbents, then these guys being at least 10 times better. A business model which is strong and which can scale. some sort of moat or unfair advantage which allows you to win, or your right to win over your competitors. And the last one is critical, but it's more of a internal conviction. It's not, the burden of proof for that does not lie with you guys as founders, right? To prove that you gave a 20x return. This is something we need to prove to ourselves. Just quickly talking about the iSafe, which is what we invest through. It's basically a convertible note, which sorry, it's the Indian equivalent of the Y Combinator safe note modified to comply with Indian laws. It's a standardized 5-page document with very few rights given to investors. Apart from a few liquidation rights and a few consent matters, all of the rest, board seat, voting right, put option, tag along to 404, all of that goes away. Broadly, it becomes a very simple document for founders to raise funds and kind of build their company. Until now, class 1 to class 4, we've made 50 investments. This is wrong. Class 6 applications are already open. We've closed class 5 as it happens, which we've not publicly showcased yet. If you want to reach out to us, you can email us a short blurb, demo link, and pitch deck at pitch@100x.vc. If you are an investor, email us at hello@100x.vc. Any specific press inquiries, blah, blah, blah. This is fine. Anyway, so with that, Aishwarya, I think your question was, Rahul, I'll just read them off here and take them. Aishwarya, you asked, will you fund a startup if they are in ideation phase, sir? And what are the elements you notice in a pitch before investing? We've invested in ideation stage startups, a bunch of them. We actually just recently gave a term sheet to an idea stage startup. Ideation does not mean the founder waits for us to validate the idea before they start working. Ideation means they've already started working. They've built the idea. They've created a clear hypothesis. I keep saying this word hypothesis because running a business is like running a science experiment. You don't know what will go right, what will go wrong. It's a hypothesis, but the clearer hypothesis you have, the better, right? The more focused hypothesis. Like this elevator pitch itself, you can consider a hypothesis, right? Tesla wala. Let me just bring it up if I can find it.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, this is a hypothesis, right? Environmentally conscious millennials with $100,000 salary who are reliant on gasoline based cars will buy our premium electric cars because we help them emit 50% less CO2 and are 2 times safer than gas cars, right? These are hypotheses. Once we start selling, we will know, okay, are people actually buying? Is this particular user group buying? Is my product actually matching them? Are they buying it for the reasons I am expecting them to? Are they buying it at the price I'm expecting them to? That's the hypothesis, right? So clarity of hypothesis is one of the key factors along with the team that we look at an ideation stage companies. But obviously we also want these teams to not just have the hypothesis, but also have started working on it, saying I'm all in regardless of whether investors invest or not. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Aishwarya.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Perfect. Chandra asks, can you tell time allotted for pitching? How much time should we complete? Elevator pitch, 45 seconds. If they're interested, they might spend a couple minutes more to understand more. Post that, then they'll ask you to send an email pitch. Email pitch ho gaya, uske baad, if there's an actual call that happens, that's typically 30 minutes is the average pitch call. Hubert asks, how to stay away from scams who ask your pitch deck and other details claiming that they will help you raise funds in social media, sir? This is a tough one. Just know that very few actual investors will charge you for pitching. No investors will charge you for pitching to any other investors. We do this for free. This is our job, to listen to entrepreneurs, and we don't charge you guys to pitch to us. So that is one part. There may be a lot of scams asking for money upfront. Okay, we'll help you fundraise if you pay this much money. Those are absolute scams. There are some legitimate investment bankers who can help. So at this stage, at the seed or pre-seed stage, it's tough. You should probably not be using an investment banker. But there are some investment bankers who can help. Those would typically take a success fee. If the fundraise actually does happen, that is when they get a cut of this, and which is usually a bit, reasonable. I've heard is like 1 to 3% kind of the total fundraise, right? So preferably don't go for those. Preferably directly reach out to investors. There has never been an easier time or place or day to reach out to investors and pitch to us. It's very simple these days. You should absolutely reaching out to us directly. I don't see any further questions. I hope that was that answers your question, Hubert. And if there are any particular further questions before we stop, happy to answer them right now.
So there's a question from Nikhil Sharma. So there's a
Yeah.
question
What
from
kind of
Nikhil Sharma in the
valuation
chat.
range have you seen in the Indian market for a seed stage startup trying to raise 400K to 800K? Probably for a, roughly I'm seeing about a 15 crore, 2 million valuation for about a 400K to 500K round would be average. India and Nikhil, see, the valuation is something, it's not market driven. It's not driven by any numbers or any formula. It's driven by what you can sell as a story. If you're able to convince an investor to invest 500K at a $100 million valuation, then your company is worth $100 million. I mean, that's basically what it is. So it's up to you how to kind of figure out the price and to work with the investor to find a price that works for both of you. It is important to remember that this is not a zero-sum game, right? Where, if the investor gets more, you lose, or if you get more, the investor loses. This is in the end a positive sum game. The focus of an investment and focus of building a company is not to have more of the pie. It's to increase the size of the pie, to increase the value of the company. The focus is to work together to increase the value of the company. So if you go into something with a mindset of a zero-sum game, it'll be tougher for you to work with investors. Yeah, Nikhil, I'm sorry, I can't comment. I mean, depends on a company to company basis. We've had a company raise a 500K round at almost a 5 million valuation as well. We've had them raise at a 2 million valuation as well. So it really depends on a company to company basis, Nikhil.
So the startups which are looking to raise funds probably Valsad sir have given a clear insight, and everything is available just for a screenshot of you. If you're a startup, do send your pictures to pitch@100x VC. Sir, in the meantime, I have one more Q&A from Gautam. Gautam is incubation CEO of Periyar University Business Incubation Confederation, which is one of the top 12 incubators in Tamil Nadu. Gautam, you can shoot your questions to that, sir.
This is Gautam here. I was speaking with Amanda via LinkedIn. So we thought of doing some networking sessions, especially for our incubators too, in the coming days. But I'm so happy that before the meet, we have connected via. We are an incubator who do incubate the grassroots innovations. We incubate even at ideation stage, and we provide them the basic set of knowledge. So we have the incubators from Tier 3 and rural background in more numbers in our sector. They don't have the knowledge on fundraising. So as an incubator, we took the responsibility of making them equipped in the basics. So people like 100x VC can support our incubator to raise funds for our incubators. So can our incubator also be supported by 100x for incubators early stage seed?
If you actually, as it happens, Gautam, we have a bunch of incubator partners that we work closely with and take a look at any and every deal that they send us. More than happy to partner with you. On our website, you can see, just drop us a mail at hello@100x.vc and we'll take it up for sure.
Sure, that's great. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you, Gautam. And sir, I just want to introduce you to Prasiddhi now in direct. This is Prasiddhi, and she is the awardee of Rashtriya Bal Puraskar, and she has planted across